afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to today's Real Course Streaming 101. My name is Jessie Riley. I'm the Resident Technology Manager here at Holland Home. Familiar faces in the room here, and I'm sure there are familiar faces watching the live stream out at the rest of the River campus and over at Breton. I know we've got people watching at Center Place and Vineyard as well. So looking forward to talking about streaming today, and more than happy to take questions, or if you have questions, feel free to send them over to me in an email, and I'm happy to kind of follow up with you there. But I've been here at Holland Home for about a little over 2 years in my role as Resident Technology Manager. My family and I, we live in Coopersville. We've got 2 little boys, 6 and 1, so we are busy, but all good things, and we're so happy that summer's here, and we're so happy that the sunshine is back out. So, all right, well, let's dive in. We've got a lot to talk about today. So the biggest question I get is, what's going on with all of this streaming? Is streaming something that I should be doing? A lot of people say, is it time to cut the cord? And by that, we just mean, is it time to cut that cable cord? Things that we become so accustomed to over time, like that monthly cable bill that we get that never really seems to go down in price and always seems to continue to go up the longer we use it. Are there other options to continue to engage you through the TV or your tablet? As technology grows, our ability to connect on many different levels and platforms grows exponentially, which is exciting, but at the same time can be really overwhelming, and there are so many options out there and what seems like a lot of moving pieces. So hopefully today we'll kind of boil that out a little bit, and you'll be able to see just some more basics. I can tell you right now, just kind of a disclaimer, there's far more live streaming options and devices beyond what I'll cover today, but what I've done is kind of selected really the high points, things that provide a really good starting place for you if you've never live streamed before, or maybe what you're using right now just isn't quite working well for you. So certainly what I'll tell you today, streaming isn't limited to that, but it does provide kind of a nice solid foundation to get started on. Yes, we got the question.
I'm not connected. Is there some problem with that? I mean, I can't do anything.
Oh, you're trying to connect on your computer? You just probably need to connect to the guest network, the Wi-Fi
Go ahead.
network. Okay. All right. So when we, before we kind of get into the who, what's, when, where, and whys about things, I thought we'd start off with just a little bit of tech trend information, because I think sometimes it's helpful to figure out sort of where we are, how did we get here, and of course 2020 provided just incredible change to just how we behave with technology due to the pandemic. So in 2020, there was a significant shift in how individuals 50 plus consumed entertainment. And that's just kind of, we would sort of anticipate that based on all of the things that we went through. So streaming overall increased. People that reported only using a cable network or cable TV were only about 38%, and that's compared to the 58% the year before. So that's a decent decline there in people that were just using cable TV. So that means some people, if consumption went up, but people aren't using cable as much, they must be going and doing something else. So the use of streaming services such as Netflix or Hulu is up from 42% to 60%. And in 2020, smart TVs were the second most popular purchase among individuals 50 plus. They went from 49% in 2019 to 64% in 2020. And that information is provided to us by the AARP Tech Trends report, top trends for people over the age of 50. So that just kind of gives you a bearing of sort of where the general behavior and sort of path for technology is going. And this is just a little bit of a graph here, and this just shows general device ownership. So it's not just specifically related to streaming or smart TVs, but in a way it kind of does loop all of that in, because it shows us that smartphones, those have just historically been one of the most, the highest utilized piece of technology, the highest ownership among individuals 50 plus. And then tablet ranks right in there, but as you can see all the way at the bottom, those smart TVs jumped out ahead of even tablet purchases in 2020. So people are starting to kind of change their entertainment consumption behaviors a little bit. And then in here we also have the home assistants, the wearables, smart home technology, everything in 2020 technology-wise. We saw a jump in just the general usership of that, which is fantastic. So we'll start off with just a really simple question, is what is streaming? And I get this question a lot, and there's, people have kind of their own answers, but simply put, the streaming is the ability to view something without having to download it first, or without having to wait for a certain time for it to come on. Sometimes you'll hear people refer to like TV on demand. Like if you're a Comcast customer, you have the ability to view on-demand programs. So basically it's just by the click of the button, you can decide, I want to watch this movie or this program at any given point in time. You don't have to wait for it to be live streamed like this presentation right now. You can just pick it up at any point and watch it. So I think when preparing for this presentation, the hard thing, I was kind of in the situation of what came first, the chicken or the egg. And it's like, do we talk about devices first, or do we talk about what you can live stream first? So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start all the way back at the beginning, and we're gonna talk about what do you need to stream programming, and then we can talk about all the fun stuff that you can do with it. So number one, you do need internet connection, and that can be either Wi-Fi, so that's wireless internet. You can have an Ethernet cable, so that's the actual cable that comes out of the wall. Some devices it can just plug right into, so if you have a computer that's plugged into Ethernet, you just plug that right in. That will give you your internet connection if you don't have wireless, or cellular. So if you're using a tablet and you don't have wireless connection, or you're using your phone, you can use that cellular data to bring in your internet connection that allows you that connectivity in order to stream. So that's our first. Number one, we need to make sure we have internet connection. If we don't have internet connection, that kind of makes things generally a little more challenging. And so after that, after you know you've got good internet connection, then you need a device for streaming. And you've got some options here. And oftentimes I see people and they say, well, if I want to do streaming, do I have to buy a brand new, one of those brand new smart TVs? And you certainly don't have to. So a smart TV is definitely an option. And just like with any technology, the more they make it, the more the price comes down and the more mainstream it becomes. So it used to be a real big thing to buy a smart TV, and you kind of had to pay a lot extra. There were only certain manufacturers that were doing it. Maybe you could only get it in like a gigantic size screen. But now smart TV production is pretty standard, and I would say you'd be hard pressed at this point to find a television, if you were in the market for a TV, that didn't have some smart TV capability. But if you're not in the market for a smart TV, that's perfectly fine, because you can use your computer or a tablet for streaming. You could even use your smartphone if you wanted. But then there are also streaming devices, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and what that means for streaming and how it gets you connected. So number one, we got to start off with internet. Number two, we need a device. We need that vehicle that's going to allow us to view the streaming. So we'll start off with computers and tablets, because this is based on Holland Home survey data that we had from a couple years ago, and then just what we know by recent technology surveys. We know that people primarily have computers and tablets in their homes. So this is great for streaming, perfect option for travel. You can take it with you. To stream on a tablet, you can download the app from whatever program it is that you want to stream from. So whether that's Netflix or Hulu, we'll get into that a little bit more here in just a minute, but just like any other app, you would download that to your tablet. And then if you'd like to stream on your computer, it's just opening up that web browser, going to a web page to stream. So those are kind of two sort of basic, common, and maybe more comfortable devices that people would use to stream. And then we have a smart TV. And so similar, when we transitioned our phones from just like the regular old flip phone that just did a phone and maybe a short text message every once in a while, then when we put computer technology behind it, it allowed you to make those phone calls and then do a whole lot of other things. And essentially that's what we're doing with smart TVs is you can watch like network cable. So if you have Comcast, you can watch that on a smart TV. But it does have this built-in capability for streaming apps, for that internet connectivity. It allows you to watch TV, but perform and do more than you would with just a standard TV. And that's just to kind of give you an idea. If you don't have a smart TV, that's just to kind of give you a visual of sort of what it looks like. But what if you don't have what if you have a TV that isn't smart? So what do we do in that case? And like I said, you don't need to start getting ready to throw it out the window or anything, because there are options. And the great news is that they're relatively inexpensive. So oftentimes price becomes a barrier for people, either because they just don't see the point of investing that money, or that money needs to go elsewhere. I don't know why this gentleman just ended up in the middle of my slide over the Apple TV, but we'll roll with that. But there are lots of popular streaming devices, and so these plug into almost any TV and allow it to be a smart TV. So if you can see over here on the far, it's called a Roku streaming stick, and it's just like a little, it's a little plug that you put in your HDMI port on the back of your TV. You stick it in there, and that allows your TV to get internet access and to pull in things like Netflix and Hulu and other streaming channels that we'll talk about here in a minute. But the Roku that's what my family uses at our house. We've used it for probably almost 4 years now, I think. And it's just been an easy way to navigate through different streaming platforms. The one that's on the screen here, that's about $39. So it's not too expensive. Of course, each of these models has varying levels that can be like ultra performer, and it's a little bit more expensive, or really basic. It just really depends on what you see your use, but usually the boxes are pretty descriptive as far as capabilities, resolution, things like that. The next device over, which has this lovely gentleman looking at his iPad, is an Apple TV. And at the end of the presentation, we actually have an Apple TV here. I'll turn it on so you can kind of see what that looks like. But an Apple TV is made by Apple. It's a little bit more expensive, so it comes in at around $139, but that also kind of gives you some flexibility if you have other Apple devices in your home, whether that's a tablet or a phone. You can do some other cool things like sharing pictures. And again, that just plugs right into your TV, and you can access it that way. And then you have the Amazon Fire Stick, very similar to the Roku. Again, plugs into the TV, gives you access to Amazon Prime, those videos, music, but you can also get Netflix. So all of these different companies have their version of streaming devices, but these are just a few that I wanted to point out that have great reputation, are relatively cost effective, and it can get you moving in the right direction. Some people I know use Chromecast. That can be a little bit more complicated. It just all depends on what works best for you. So now that we kind of know some of the devices that we would use, what we need to get going, now we can just start talking about what streaming service is right for you. So has anyone in the room here ever utilized any type of streaming before? Netflix or nothing? Okay, no problem. So I thought we'd start off with a fun fact, because it's always fun to get just a little background. Netflix began their original subscription program in 1999, and they're based out of California, Los Gatos, California, and their whole subscription program was based off of mailing movies and TV programs to your mailbox. And I remember when this came out, it was so different. You know, at that point, Blockbuster and all of those movie shops were at their height, and so it was really strange. It almost seemed like, is this a legit thing to have videos mailed into my mailbox? But it became really popular. They continued to grow their company, and then in 2007, Netflix launched their online streaming platform, which compared to now was so limited as far as the content. Now, you know, as of 2017, Netflix is available in over 190 countries. They're producing and making their own programs. So it's really expanded, but it's interesting to look at the progression, and really not that long of a time. I mean, if we're looking at just a little bit over 20 years, it's the way that we consume this technology has really changed in the last 20 years. So that's just a little fun fact you might not have known before. But there are lots of free and subscription-based streaming platforms. So I have 4 pointed out here. These are pretty standard. They offer some specific things that you might be interested in, but the list goes on and on and on. If you start streaming, if you start using these platforms, you'll find other programs as well. But Amazon Prime is a great one that has a great library of movies, documentaries, TV programs, children's programs if you have grandkids or great-grandkids coming by. It is a subscription-based program, and there typically is a free trial. So these companies want you to kind of get in and see, like, is this the right choice for me? You can get the subscription for $9 a month, but if you have an Amazon Prime membership, then that is included, and then that comes out to be, there's lots of different benefits of being an Amazon Prime member, but that shakes out to be about $12 a month. So if you're just looking for access to movies and videos, you're looking at about $9 for Prime Video, and that can be downloaded in an app on your tablet. You can access it on your computer. So all of those different devices we talked about just a few minutes ago, you can access Prime Video on. Netflix is probably the most noteworthy. People are very familiar with Netflix. Obviously, it's been around a long time. There's typically a 30-day free trial. So you get 30 days free to view any and everything that you want. The nice thing with Netflix is that as you start to watch different programs. It kind of recognizes the types of programs that you like, and then will begin to suggest things based on previous views. So that can be kind of interesting. Though sometimes things will pop up in my view, and I'm like, really? Never would have guessed. But then some things have popped up that I probably wouldn't have sought out, and they've been fantastic. But Netflix has a wonderful library of documentaries and foreign films, things of that nature. So the subscription fee for Netflix, it ranges from $8.99 to $17.99 per month. So if you go on their website, you'll see kind of what makes up those differences. Primarily, it's because it's $8.99 gives you like you can log into one device. What Netflix was finding here, this was a big buzz about this time last year, because of course we're all home watching Netflix. People would share their password with lots of people, and then of course Netflix wasn't getting their fair share as they thought, and so they really started cracking down on how many passwords, how many devices can use the same login information. So obviously, the more you pay per month, the more devices can be logged in. It also gives you different resolution, things like boring stuff like that. But yeah, they'll give you a little bit more detail on their website. But then if you look at things like PBS streaming, that's completely free, and it's based on your location, and that is actually, you can watch you can watch on-demand programs, but you can actually watch some live programs as well. The technology has advanced so much that we're not just restricted to on-demand videos, but those platforms can also pull in live stream, which is nice. So PBS streaming is completely free. And then if you're somebody that feels like, well, I kind of like cable TV, I like that ability to flip through channels, but I don't need this many channels, or I'm only interested in maybe 20 channels, Sling Television is a great option and is really ideal for the people that are looking for a similar experience to paid TV. And that ranges between $34 and $45 a month, so still maybe cheaper than cable. But if you're somebody that just watches sports and you really don't care about anything else, you could select a plan for that. So Sling Television kind of gives you a little bit more of that classic TV experience, but you can kind of create a more curated content set based on what level that you purchase. So those are just a few options. Lots of people enjoy Hulu, and that is, that has a great library of videos, similar to Sling Television in that it has those current TV programs, but it doesn't stream them live. So if you really like to watch a particular show and it airs on Thursday at 10 p.m., you have to wait till Friday for it to show up. So it's just a little bit delayed, but still gives you that current content. So a lot of people like Hulu. Disney Plus is also a very, very popular streaming subscription. Disney Plus comes in at I want to say about $7 a month, and that's it's a little bit newer. But Disney owns so much that there's National Geographic on that. It's not just Mickey Mouse. So there's lots of there's great classic movies on there. So don't discount Disney Plus because there's some really good stuff in there. And so as we were talking about things like Netflix and Prime, the one thing I do want to put out there is that there is a subscription setup. So just kind of be aware of that. And if you're somebody that's super new to this, but you're interested and you want to try something out, but the registration process is maybe feels a little daunting to you, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to walk you through it. But they do require an account creation. And that requires an email for you to create a password. And then if applicable, a payment information via a credit card. So with the email, I always suggest it's an email that you can easily access, because if you were to forget your password, you would want to be able to reset it, and that's hard to do if it's an email that either doesn't exist or you can't get access to. But some things will just allow you to get right in without an account, but most of the time, things like Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock, along those lines, you do have to create an account. But once you've created an account, then you're good to go moving forward. But you can also head to the web. So this is another way to view on demand. So if you think, okay, this is just, maybe too much, I don't really want to deal with I know I have technology, I have a computer or a tablet, there's still ways to stream without kind of getting Netflix or Prime Video, things of that nature. A lot of the major networks, so CBS, NBC, PBS, ABC, they've really jumped on the on-demand bandwagon as well. And they realize that a lot of people are cutting the cord, and maybe they don't want their viewership to go down. So if you go to any of those websites, you can actually stream TV shows on their website. It's completely free. Sometimes there's a couple ads in place that just kind of pay for the ability for you to watch it. But by visiting any of these websites, you can see recently aired shows, or you can go back to previous seasons, whatever you're interested in. But definitely something to not lose sight of if you're just kind of wanting to try out what's on demand like. You can check out the web, check out these network pages, and see what you can find. So what I thought we would do is we actually have an Apple TV here in the friendship room, and I always think it's kind of nice to be able to show you in live action what it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and switch over here to this Apple TV. All right. So this is what an Apple TV looks like, and you've got different. You've got different tiles, and this is a pretty standard look for a lot of those streaming devices or a smart TV. So if you have a smartphone, this is very similar to an app, and that's how you can kind of think of it. Is that behind each of these tiles is content, is some type of streaming program. So we have Prime. So if we click on that. Well, we have to sign into that one. Let's go back. Let's see. So let's go to Netflix. And if you get a streaming device, this is a great way to, you can actually log in to, or create an account. So if you were to just have gotten your streaming device and you're like, okay, I'm ready to use Netflix, then you could say, all right, I'm ready to watch TV shows and movies anywhere, anytime. So you would just click on that. Maybe. Okay. Well, our Holland Home Network may not let us go into this too far, but I wanted to give you an idea of what this looks like. For an Apple TV, you do have the options to have music and to save movies on here, TV shows. There's a setting app, which is similar if you have an iPhone. It's a similar setup to what you're accustomed to on your iPhone. Let's see. Here we go. Thinking about TV, like Hulu, like Netflix, they have their own content, and you can see that here. And so they create some of their own shows. So there's lots and lots to watch. But the Apple TV also provides the ability to connect with things like Netflix, and all of these other apps down here. There's PBS. There's always new apps too. So chances are when you get, if you get a streaming device, oftentimes it'll say like, oh, have you tried this? And that'll provide kind of a promotion. So, so that is Streaming 101. That hopefully gives you a good idea of what you would need, a good place to start. I always suggest for people, don't feel like you need to try all sorts of different platforms to get yourself going. Maybe just pick one thing, and maybe that's just going online and live streaming some TV shows from abc.com. You know, just a little step outside the comfort zone, outside of what you're used to doing, can help to really grow that confidence and then lead to maybe trying something else. But I encourage you to try something new. It's kind of hard to think about sitting inside watching TV on beautiful days like this. But, you know, I mean, maybe the next time we get 3 days of torrential rain, you'll, you know, it'll give you something to think about. But there is a handout for friends here in the friendship room. It's at the back of the room. And then for the people that are viewing at Breton, Terrace, and Ridge, those have been sent over. It should be printed for you here anytime. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you and kind of guide. I don't have, you know, I'm not sponsored by any platform in particular, so I can give you neutral feedback and information as much as you would like. So thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day and a great holiday weekend. Thanks so much.